The illusion of scale. You have probably felt it before, that quiet, deflating thought that arrives somewhere around midnight. The universe is unimaginably vast, and you are not. 100 billion galaxies, each with 100 billion stars, spinning across distances so large that light itself needs billions of years just to cross them. Next to that, a human life looks like a rounding error. Silence mostly. That is the story we tell ourselves about scale, bigger space, smaller meaning, vastness as proof of our own insignificance. But that story quietly skips over something strange. A universe that large should be uncrossable, unmeasurable, unknowable to anything as small as us. And yet here we are, doing exactly that. Not imagining it, measuring it, assigning it a shape, an age, a rate of expansion, a boundary we can actually calculate. Somewhere between the galaxies and the equations, something doesn't add up. If we are as small and as temporary as the story insists, how did we become the ones capable of holding the whole thing in our head? That contradiction is the real shock in Richard Feynman's answer. Not a number, not a distance, but a redirection. He wasn't interested in telling you how big the universe is. He was interested in what it means that a species barely a few thousand years out of the caves can ask that question at all and get an answer that actually holds up. So before the physics arrives, sit with the real mystery for a moment. It was never really about size. Size is just the costume. The true question wears. The question underneath is quieter and far stranger. What kind of universe produces something inside it small enough to be crushed by its own scale, yet somehow large enough to measure it? Hold that thought, because Feynman's answer does not shrink you the way you would expect. You would assume that a bigger universe simply means more emptiness, more distance between us and everything else, more isolation stretched thin across more nothing. That is the intuitive math of scale. The bigger the gap, the lonelier the picture looks. It feels obvious. It feels almost too obvious to question, which is usually the first sign a question deserves a much closer second look. But distance in this universe does not behave the way distance behaves in ordinary life. When you look at a star, you are not really seeing the star. You are seeing light that left it years ago, sometimes thousands of years ago, sometimes billions. The star you are looking at right now may have already changed. It may have already died completely. What reaches your eyes is not a place at all. It is a memory traveling through space, arriving late, dressed up as the present moment, borrowing the look of something happening now. So the vastness Feynman was pointing toward was never really about emptiness. It was about time, disguised as distance. Every additional light year you look across is not more nothing. It is more past. The farther out you look, the further back you are actually seeing. The night sky is not a map of where things are. It is a layered photograph of when things were, stacked one behind another, all the way to the edge of what light has had time to reach. This is where the unease creeps in, quietly, underneath the wonder. If looking far enough means looking backward far enough, then some of what you are watching tonight may not exist anymore, in any form. You are not looking outward into a static room full of galaxies frozen politely in place. You are looking into a timeline, one where the most distant objects are also the oldest, ghost-like echoes of a universe that has already moved on without them, indifferent to whether you noticed. Vastness, then, was never a true measure of loneliness. It was always a measure of how much time is folded quietly into the space between you and everything else. And once you see it that way, the question stops being how far the universe reaches and becomes something closer and stranger, how far back you are actually allowed to see, and what it means that the universe let you see that far at all. That last question was not really about the universe, it was about you. What it means that the universe let you see that far is not a question physics can answer alone, because it quietly assumes something we rarely examine, that looking is a passive act. That the universe simply sits there, indifferent, while we peer in from a safe distance and take careful notes on what we find. But looking has never been passive. The moment you observe something, you are drawing a boundary. Everywhere light has had time to reach you defines what you call the observable universe. Not the universe itself, but the version of it permitted to exist inside your particular vantage point, at this moment, from this particular corner of space. Move that vantage point, and the boundary moves with it. There is no universal edge out there waiting patiently to be discovered. There is only the edge of what a given observer is capable of receiving. This is the quiet reversal Feynman was circling long before he ever gave his famous answer. You assume the universe is simply large, a fixed, knowable size sitting patiently outside of us, and that the work of science is just to measure it more precisely. Actually, size itself may be inseparable from the very act of measuring. The observable universe is not a smaller slice of some greater absolute. It is the only universe that has any meaning relative to something capable of noticing it at all, which raises a stranger possibility than mere scale ever could. Perhaps vastness is not simply a property of space. Perhaps it is also a property of consciousness measuring itself against the dark, discovering its own edges by discovering how far its light can travel outward and return as understanding. The universe did not become vast the moment it first formed. It became vast the moment something inside it turned around, looked outward, and asked how far all of this actually goes. That reframing changes the stakes of everything that comes next in this story. This is no longer only a story about galaxies and distances. It is a story about what kind of thing must exist inside a universe before that universe can be said to have a size at all, and whether being that thing might be far stranger and far more central than anyone ever assumed it could be. So here, finally, is the answer Feynman was pointing toward, and it is stranger than the question ever expected. You assumed, somewhere back at the beginning, that the universe means one fixed thing, a container, sealed, a number waiting quietly to be filled in, the way you might ask the size of a room. Find the right instrument, take the right measurement, and eventually science would hand you a final figure. Big, yes, but finite, knowable, closed, like a book with a last page waiting to be turned. That assumption is exactly where the shock lives, because it turns out to be almost entirely backwards. Light moves fast, but not infinitely fast. Every second it covers a fixed distance, and not 1 inch more. That single limit is the quiet foundation beneath absolutely everything that follows next. The universe itself is roughly 13.8 billion years old, and light has only had that much time to travel toward us since the earliest moment anything existed to emit it. That gives us a boundary, not the edge of the universe, but the edge of what could possibly have reached us yet. Astronomers call it the observable universe, and it is enormous by any human measure, roughly 93 billion light-years across, once the stretching of space itself over time is properly accounted for. But here is the part that Feynman found genuinely unsettling and worth sitting with a little longer. That number is not the size of the universe. It is the size of the universe's shadow, cast specifically for us from exactly where we happen to be standing right now, in this moment. Beyond that boundary, space does not simply stop. Galaxies do not end. There is no wall, no edge, no final galaxy marking some outer rim. There is simply more universe existing right now that light has not yet had time to bring us news of. And depending on how cosmic inflation unfolded in those first fractions of a second after the beginning, the total universe may not be finite at all. It may stretch on, unmeasured and permanently unmeasurable, forever and without end. Which means the smallness you felt back at the start of all this was quietly built on an assumption that never actually held up. You are not a small thing failing to comprehend one large, fixed number. You are a small thing capable of calculating the exact boundary of everything it will ever be physically possible for you to see, standing inside a universe that may have no boundary at all beyond that point. The vastness was never really the point. The edge was never really an edge. It was simply the reach of your own light cone, drawn by physics, standing in for infinity, because infinity refuses to be measured by anyone at all. That is Feynman's real answer, not a size, a limit, and the quiet discovery that you were the one drawing it the entire time without ever once realizing it. Without ever once realizing it, you have been the edge of the universe this entire time, not a bystander standing outside something vast, watching it quietly from a safe distance, the boundary itself. The exact place where light finally runs out of time to reach any further. That is no small role at all. You assumed, walking into this, that vastness was meant to diminish you, a reminder of how little you matter against something so large it cannot even be fully measured. Actually, the opposite is quietly true. Something has to exist for a boundary to exist at all. Somewhere, something has to be capable of noticing where the light stops arriving, capable of asking what lies beyond it, capable of building an entire civilization around wondering. That something, against every reasonable probability, turned out to be you. Feynman never really answered how big the universe is, because that was never truly answerable, and possibly never the point of asking. What he answered instead was rarer. He showed that a small, temporary, carbon-based thing could stand at the edge of everything it will ever be permitted to see, understand exactly why that edge exists, and still choose to keep looking past it anyway. Most things in this universe do not get to do that. Rocks do not wonder about their own boundaries. Stars do not ask what lies past their own light. Somewhere across 13.8 billion long years of expanding, cooling, colliding matter, a small fraction of it woke up long enough to measure its own reach and felt something close to awe instead of despair when it finally found the limit. So the universe is not vast in a way that makes you small. It is vast in a way that required something like you to notice it at all. That may be the shocking part Feynman was really pointing toward the entire time. Not the size of the universe, the strange, quiet fact that it produced someone who could look outward, hit the edge of what light allows, and still ask, calmly, what happens next?